Hello, thank you for joining us today. My name is Katie Woolery, and I'm the CanGrow Grant Coordinator, representing the Office of Cannabis Management's Division of Social Equity. Today, I will provide an overview of the upcoming CanGrow Farmer Training and Loan Grants. This session will take an hour to complete. We will also be hosting 2 additional technical assistance sessions if you have any questions or if you run into any challenges while completing your application. In addition, we have a frequently asked questions section available on our website. That is a great place to start if you have questions, and we will continue to update it with new responses to common inquiries. Also, you are always welcome to email us directly at grants.ocm@state.mn.us for assistance. Disclaimer: please note, the information provided in this session is for informational purposes only and is not final. All details regarding the grants administered by the State of Minnesota Office of Cannabis Management are subject to change and should not be considered as definitive guidance. Attendees are encouraged to refer to official sources for the most current and accurate information. Before we dive into grant details, I want to highlight the role of the Office of Cannabis Management, or OCM. Under Minnesota Statute 342.02.1, OCM is responsible for regulating cannabis in a way that promotes public health, safety, and welfare, eliminates the illicit market, and ensures consumer demand is met through a safe and legal system. The statute also directs us to foster a sustainable cannabis industry and, importantly, prioritizes the growth and investment in communities that have been disproportionately impacted by cannabis prohibition. These statutory priorities are what guide our work and are a direct reflection in programs like CanGrow. Next, I'd like to briefly introduce the Division of Social Equity, or DSE. This division within OCM is focused on promoting development, stability, and safety in communities that have been disproportionately impacted by cannabis prohibition. DSE plays a critical role in ensuring that equity is not just a goal, but something that is actively embedded across the cannabis industry. This includes engaging directly with communities to understand their needs, elevating their voices in decision-making, and ensuring that our programs reflect those perspectives. In addition to this community-centered work, DSE administers key initiatives like CanGrow and CanRenew, supports licensing efforts, investigates and helps resolve complaints, and monitors what's happening across the industry to identify trends and potential barriers to equity. We also regularly report to OCM leadership and the legislature on social equity outcomes and the overall impact of our programs. At the heart of this work is CanGrow, which is more than just a program, it's a pathway to a more equitable cannabis industry. CanGrow is designed to help address long-standing disparities by creating meaningful opportunities for farmers who may have historically faced barriers to entering regulated markets. Through CanGrow, we are working to ensure that Minnesota's legal cannabis industry is not only compliant and safe, but also inclusive and accessible. CanGrow helps farmers build the knowledge, networks, and capacity needed to establish and grow viable operations, while also reducing risks and avoiding common compliance challenges. Ultimately, this work supports stronger communities, promotes economic opportunity, and helps ensure that those most impacted by past policies have a real opportunity to participate in and benefit from this emerging market. Next, I would like to introduce the DSE grants team. We have Jessica Jackson, who is our DSE director and provides overall leadership and direction for the division. Steph Reitenauer is the grants manager and oversees the CanGrow and CanRenew grant programs. Heather Dukeshire serves as the CanRenew grant coordinator, and I am Katie Woolery, your CanGrow coordinator, and will be your main point of contact. Next, I will discuss OCM grant programs. OCM currently administers 3 grant programs, 2 of which are the focus of today's presentation: the CanGrow Farmer Training Grants and the CanGrow Farmer Loan Grants. These programs are specifically designed to support farmers who are interested in entering Minnesota's legal cannabis industry by providing education, technical assistance, and access to capital. In addition to CanGrow, OCM also administers a community restoration grant program called CanRenew. CanRenew is a competitive grant program that invests in communities disproportionately impacted by past cannabis prohibition, particularly those with residents who qualify as social equity applicants. While CanGrow is focused on supporting individual farmers and building pathways into the cannabis industry, CanRenew has a broader community focus. Importantly, CanRew funded projects do not need to be related to cannabis. Instead, the program supports a wide range of community based initiatives, including economic development, violence prevention, civil legal aid, improving social determinants of health, and youth development. For example, organizations might use CanRew funding to support workforce development programs, expand access to legal services, or create safe and supportive environments for the youth. The goal is to strengthen communities and create long-term opportunities for residents. The request for proposals, or RFP, for the 2026 CanRew grant cycle is currently closed, but OCM plans to open a new funding opportunity later this year, likely in the fall or winter. Even though CanRew projects do not need to be cannabis related, there is some overlap in the area of economic development. So if you find that CanGrow is not the right fit for your project or organization, CanRew may be a strong alternative to consider depending on your goals. I want to take a moment to emphasize the intent behind the CanGrow grant programs. These programs are specifically designed to create opportunities for farmers and cultivators by providing education, technical assistance, and access to loan funding. The goal is to support individuals who are interested in growing cannabis or expanding into cannabis-related business activities, such as retail or other parts of the supply chain. Because of this focus, CanGrow may not be the best fit for every organization. If your work does not involve supporting farmers or individuals entering the cultivation side of the cannabis industry, we strongly encourage you to explore other funding opportunities available through the Minnesota Department of Employment and Economic Development, also known as DEED. DEED offers several cannabis-related grant and loan programs that may better align with your organization's goals. Through this program, DEED partners with local and regional community-based organizations to help entrepreneurs and small business owners understand and navigate Minnesota's legal cannabis industry. This includes guidance on licensing, regulatory requirements, and business development. Another option is the Cannabis Industry Startup Financing Program, or CanStartup. Through this initiative, DEED works with lending partners to provide loans to eligible cannabis micro-businesses with a priority placed on supporting social equity applicants. These loans typically range from $2,500 to $75,000 and can go up to $200,000 when paired with private matching funds. So if your organization is more focused on business development, entrepreneurship, or supporting small cannabis business outside of farming and cultivation, these DEED programs may be a better fit for your project. If you are interested in learning more about DEED grants, please scan the QR code or visit the link to the right. Next, this slide is really your home base for anything and everything related to the grant process. On the OCM website, you'll find the full request for proposals, all required application materials, and the direct link to submit your application online. We've tried to make this as streamlined as possible so you're not hunting across multiple pages and everything you need is centralized in one place. You'll also find the schedule for technical assistance sessions posted. These sessions are a great opportunity to ask questions, get clarification, and make sure you feel confident about your application before submitting. Please make sure to bookmark our website. This is where we'll post any updates, clarifications, or changes throughout the application period. It will always be the most up-to-date source of information. As you can see, there's also a QR code here that will take you directly to the grants page so you can easily access it later. One more quick plug. Make sure you sign up for the OCM mailing list. That's how we'll share important updates like award announcements, reminders about deadlines, and notifications when new funding opportunities become available. So between bookmarking our website and joining the mailing list, you'll be fully set up to stay informed throughout this process. Now let's talk about CanGrow priorities. The CanGrow grant programs are designed to prioritize and strengthen support for farmers as they navigate Minnesota's legal cannabis industry by connecting them with trusted experts, regulatory guidance, and community-based organizations. The intent is to help farmers confidently enter or expand within this emerging market while reducing barriers to participation, minimizing unnecessary startup and compliance costs, and lowering overall financial and regulatory risk. A key focus of the program is ensuring farmers have the tools they need to remain compliant, avoid infractions, and build sustainable operations at every stage of readiness from initial exploration to full-scale production. The program is organized into two primary focus areas, the CanGrow Farmer Training Grant and the CanGrow Farmer Loan Grant. The CanGrow Farmer Training Grants support eligible organizations in delivering education, training, technical assistance, and hands on support to farmers interested in entering or expanding within the legal cannabis industry. This may include regulatory education, business planning, cultivation guidance, compliance support, and connections to industry experts. The specific categories of allowable projects will be detailed in the request for proposals, and we will highlight key examples during today's overview. CanGrow farmer loan grants provide funding to eligible nonprofit corporations to establish or expand loan programs that offer low interest financing to farmers pursuing opportunities in the legal cannabis industry. These organizations are typically certified community development financial institutions, or CDFIs, with strong experience in agricultural lending, small business financing, and community based economic development. Through this model, farmers gain access not only to capital, but also to trusted financial guidance and structured lending support that helps reduce risk and promote long term success. Next, for this fiscal year, we have a little over $2.3 million available to support both farmer loan financing and training initiatives under this program. This funding is designed to strengthen Minnesota's emerging cannabis industry by investing directly in organizations that can provide meaningful support to farmers and cultivators across the state. Let me break that down a bit further. For the loan financing grants, awards will generally range from $200,000 up to $500,000 per eligible organization. These funds are intended to help build long-term capacity and expand access to capital for farmers entering or scaling within the legal cannabis market. The grant period for these awards can extend up to 5 years, and there is also the possibility of renewal, depending on performance and future funding availability. For training and technical assistance grants, awards will range from $10,000 to $100,000 per project. These are shorter-term investments designed to support education, workforce development, and hands-on technical assistance. The grant period for these awards will run up to 12 months, specifically from July 2026 through June 2027. On the individual support side, farmer-level loans supported through these programs will typically range from $2,500 to $50,000, with the potential to go up to $150,000 for projects that include matching funds. This structure is designed to increase accessibility while also encouraging additional investment and partnership where possible. These funds are expected to be distributed competitively, meaning all applications will be reviewed and scored based on their alignment with program goals, impact, and readiness. Finally, OCM intends to ensure these investments reach eligible communities throughout the entire state with a focus on equitable access and broad geographic distribution, so that support is not concentrated in just one region, but instead helps build a more inclusive and sustainable industry statewide. Next, I will discuss eligible applicants. Eligible organizations for this program are those that are capable of helping farmers navigate the regulatory structure of Minnesota's legal cannabis industry, especially individuals who face barriers to education or employment. This includes a broad range of applicants, such as nonprofit organizations, federally recognized tribes, educational institutions, local units of government, private businesses, community-based organizations, and partnerships between any of these entity types. To be eligible, all applicants must be properly registered and in good standing with both the IRS and the Minnesota Secretary of State at the time of the application and throughout the grant period. While a variety of organizations may apply, priority will be given to those that can demonstrate a proven track record of delivering successful training, technical assistance, or navigation services, particularly for underserved populations or individuals facing barriers to employment and education. OCM will also place additional weight on proposals that serve geographic areas where residents are eligible to apply as social equity applicants, ensuring that support reaches communities most impacted. In short, we're looking for organizations with both the capacity and experience to effectively guide farmers through the legal cannabis system with a strong emphasis on equity, access, and demonstrated impact. Eligible applicants for the CanGrow Farmer Loan Grant include nonprofit corporations that have the capacity to establish and administer a revolving loan fund designed to support farmers entering or expanding within the legal cannabis industry. Strong applicants will demonstrate a governing board with relevant and diverse experience, including members with backgrounds in agricultural business development, lending and underwriting, community development finance, or related economic development fields. This governance structure is essential to ensuring strong oversight, sound decision making, and long term sustainability of loan programs. In addition, organizations should have the technical expertise and internal capacity needed to effectively evaluate farmer led projects. This includes assessing financial feasibility, reviewing business plans, understanding agricultural operations, and providing meaningful technical assistance and financial guidance to applicants throughout the lending process. Applicants should also demonstrate a clear understanding of how to leverage and coordinate both public and private funding sources. Experience working within broader economic development systems or grant programs will be important, as successful implementation often requires aligning multiple funding streams and partnerships. Finally, eligible organizations must show they have operational strength and experience to initiate, manage, and sustain economic development lending programs over time. This includes strong financial management systems, compliance capacity, and the ability to ensure loan funds are responsibly deployed, effectively monitored, and ultimately reinvested to continuously support farmers and strengthen participation in the cannabis industry. Next, I will discuss the Continuum of Readiness, which is an industry framework designed to help individuals and businesses understand how prepared they are to enter and operate within the legal cannabis market. The framework describes 5 progressive stages of readiness across 2 core dimensions: regulatory knowledge, which includes understanding cannabis laws, rules, and compliance requirements, and operational capacity, the ability to effectively launch, manage, and sustain a business. As individuals or organizations move through the continuum, their capacity in both areas increases. Early stages reflect limited familiarity with regulations and minimal business infrastructure, while later stages demonstrate growing experience, stronger planning, and active implementation. The ultimate goal is to reach stage 5, where both regulatory expertise and operational capacity are fully developed. At this highest level, an individual or organization has a deep understanding of Minnesota's cannabis regulations and practical skills needed to operate a compliant, sustainable, and successful cannabis business. Next, let me walk you through the typical project activities under the CanGrow Farmer Training Grants. OCM prioritizes proposals that align with several key focus areas. While applicants are encouraged to select a primary focus, they may also design their programs to address the specific needs of their target population in a flexible and responsive way. The 4 main training categories include cannabis-specific support, business planning and development, environmental and legal considerations, and networking. To start, cannabis-specific support may include education on cannabis tax law, such as Section 280E, regulatory compliance, risk management, as well as production and distribution requirements. Business planning and development may provide support in areas such as business plan development, operating agreements, human resources structures, zoning and fire code compliance, and community benefit agreements. Environmental and legal considerations may address topics such as federal subsidy eligibility, crop insurance, OSHA compliance, and environmental protections, including erosion control and pollution prevention. Conferences and networking opportunities may include support for organizing conferences, as well as reducing barriers to participation, such as transportation assistance, language interpretation, translation services, and other forms of direct or technical support. There is also mentorship and expert assistance. This includes access to industry professionals, development of standard operating procedures, networking opportunities, and guidance to help participants avoid predatory practices. There is also a lot of flexibility in how training is delivered. Approaches may include online learning modules and scalable digital resources, conferences, workshops, and classroom-based instruction, printed or digital training manuals and toolkits, train the trainer models, one-on-one technical assistance, support in legal, licensing, tax, or accounting areas. These examples are not exhaustive. Applicants are encouraged to design innovative approaches that best serve their communities and participants. For CanGrow loan grant recipients, funds are used to source, originate, and service loans that support legal cannabis-related businesses. These loans may be used for equipment, vehicles, land, or building acquisition, facility construction or renovation, and working capital needs. Importantly, farmers are not only limited to cannabis cultivation, they may also use loan funds to launch or expand other cannabis related businesses, such as retail operations, testing facilities, or other parts of the supply chain. This ensures multiple entry points into the legal cannabis industry beyond growing. Priority for lending must be given to social equity applicants, including farmers and businesses from communities disproportionately impacted by past cannabis enforcement. Next, I will discuss target populations. When awarding CanGrow farmer training grants, OCM prioritizes applicants that demonstrate a strong and proven track record of effectively serving Minnesota farmers. This includes organizations that have consistently supported agricultural communities, particularly those that may face systemic barriers to education, training, capital, or employment opportunities in the agricultural sector. Additional consideration is given to proposals that directly benefit communities with long term residents who qualify as social equity applicants. This reflects the program's broader commitment to ensuring that those most impacted by past inequities have meaningful access to the emerging cannabis industry and the economic opportunities it creates. The central focus of the CanGrow Farmer Loan Grant remains clear. Priority is placed on SEA individuals or those that have participated in farm operations for at least 3 years, providing the majority of day to day labor and management on a farm with gross sales between 5,000 and 100,000 in the previous year. These experienced farm workers are the core audience of the program, individuals with hands on agricultural knowledge who are seeking pathways to stability, ownership, and advancement within legal cannabis related agriculture. Ultimately, the goal of these grants is to strengthen Minnesota's agricultural workforce by investing in those already doing the work, while also ensuring that technical assistance resources are directed towards farmers who are the best positioned to benefit from targeted support and long term capacity building. This slide explains how Minnesota statute defines social equity applicants under the program. Eligibility includes individuals who have been directly impacted by prior cannabis related offenses, as well as their close family members and dependents. It also includes military veterans, particularly those who have lost honorable status due to a cannabis related offense, as well as current or former National Guard members, including those with service related disabilities. The definition further includes individuals who have lived for at least 5 of the past 10 years in communities disproportionately impacted by cannabis enforcement. These are areas characterized by factors such as higher arrest and enforcement rates, elevated poverty levels, lower median incomes, higher unemployment, and increased reliance on public assistance programs such as SNAP. Additionally, individuals may qualify based on agricultural experience. This includes those who have participated in farm operations for at least 3 years, providing the majority of day to day labor and management on a farm, with gross sales between 5,000 and 100,000 in the previous year. The map shown here to the right highlights where social equity populations are most concentrated across Minnesota. These communities are the key priority for program investment, as the goal is to support restoration, expand opportunity, and promote long term economic growth in the areas most impacted by past enforcement and economic barriers. Please use the QR code on the right to access more detailed information about social equity applicant eligibility and related program guidance. Next, I will discuss where to find social equity data. Grant applicants have flexibility in how they demonstrate meaningful engagement with farmers and the communities they serve. There is no single required type of documentation, as OCM recognizes that organizations may have different sources of data depending on their work, partnerships, and service history. Instead, applicants are encouraged to submit the most relevant and compelling evidence they have available to clearly demonstrate their connection to the target population. This may include internal demographic data collected through program participation, outreach efforts, intake systems, or service delivery records. It may also include law enforcement or justice system data that helps provide context around community impact, historical disparities, or populations that have been disproportionately affected. In addition, applicants may use agricultural or farming related data that reflects direct experience working with farmers, farm operations, or rural communities, including documentation of technical assistance training or other supports provided over time. To support applicants in this work, OCM has developed a social equity verification map. This tool helps identify areas where communities most impacted by cannabis prohibition may reside. It is publicly available and can be especially helpful for grantees when collecting data and completing applications, as well as during evaluation and reporting requirements. The intent of this flexibility is to ensure that applicants are not limited by a one-size-fits-all reporting structure. Instead, reviewers will consider the full range of evidence provided and assess it holistically. OCM and grant reviewers will carefully evaluate all submissions to determine whether they are sufficient to demonstrate meaningful service to and engagement with the intended target population, as defined in the program criteria. Strong applications will not only provide data, but also connect the data to real-world outcomes and relationships with farmers and communities. Please visit the Social Equity Verification Map by scanning the QR code on the right. This slide shows a close-up example of the data available from the Social Equity Map displayed in a list format for a selected census tract. The data includes key indicators such as poverty rate, median income, SNAP participation, social vulnerability index ranking, veteran population, and the percentage of farmers earning under $50,000. I'm not going to go over each of these data points in detail today. However, I encourage you to explore the map on your own to better understand how it can support your application. Now, I will walk you through what's required for a complete application and how it will be evaluated. I'll be reinforcing some of these points again in the next few slides as we walk through what each section looks like in the actual application form. To start, there are several sections you'll complete directly within the online application system. These include your basic contact information, eligibility details, and the project summary. While these may seem straightforward, they set a foundation for your application, so it's important to ensure everything is accurate, clear, and aligned with the rest of your proposal. In addition to the online fields, you'll be required to upload several key documents. One of the most important is your project narrative. There isn't a preset template for this, which gives you flexibility, but it also means you'll need to carefully follow the provided prompts and build a well-organized document from scratch. This narrative is really your opportunity to demonstrate your organization's capacity and readiness. Please keep in mind that reviewers are looking for a clear, thoughtful, and cohesive plan. Make sure you are fully answering each question and that all parts of your proposal connect logically from your goals and activities to your expected outcomes. It should tell a complete story of what you're proposing and how you'll successfully carry it out. Be sure to also include a detailed work plan table as instructed. This is a critical component because it shows how your project will be implemented over time, what activities will take place, who is responsible, and when key milestones will be achieved. A strong work plan helps reviewers see that your project is not just a good idea, but a feasible and well-structured one. Your budget is another required component and must be submitted using the designated template. This should be uploaded separately from your narrative. Make sure your budget aligns closely with your project activities and clearly justifies how funds will be used. You'll also need to include additional supporting materials such as an organizational chart or board list, samples of past work, letters of support, and any relevant exhibit. These materials help provide evidence of your experience, partnerships, and ability to successfully execute the proposed project. And a quick but very important reminder, all required materials must be submitted for your application to be considered complete. Missing documents or incomplete sections can result in your application being deemed ineligible and not moving forward in the review process, so it's worth double-checking everything before submission. Now, in terms of how applications are evaluated, each submission is scored using a standardized rubric with assigned point values. Organizational capacity and experience carry the greatest weight at 30%, emphasizing the importance of demonstrating your ability to successfully manage and implement the project. Project description and the project work plan are weighted at 20%, reflecting the need for both a strong concept and a clear, actionable plan. The remaining categories, outreach and partnerships, performance and evaluation, and your budget, are weighted at 10%. While these categories carry slightly less weight individually, they are still essential and can make a significant difference in your overall score. Taken together, this scoring structure ensures that applications are evaluated not just on ideas, but on readiness, feasibility, and the ability to deliver meaningful results. This slide shows a pie chart illustrating how applications are scored using a weighted rubric. Each section represents a portion of the total score based on its importance. Organizational capacity and experience make up the largest slice at 30%. The project description and project work plan each account for 20%. Outreach and partnership, performance and evaluation, and the budget each represent 10% of the total score. Together, these sections add up to form the complete evaluation of your application. Next, I will discuss how to apply. The application link and all supporting exhibit materials are available on the Minnesota Office of Cannabis Management website. You can also access this page quickly by scanning the QR code on the left. On this page, you'll find everything you need to complete your application, including the online application portal, the application guide, required exhibits, helpful resources, frequently asked questions, and information about CanGrow grantees. One section that may be especially useful is the resource list. This includes public data on license holders, such as cultivators, as well as guidance for license holders, information on inventory management systems, and upcoming industry events. You'll also find details about the Social Equity Mixer series. These events are a great opportunity to network, learn more about cannabis laws and regulations, develop standard operating procedures, and connect with others in the industry to share knowledge and experiences. Now, I will walk you through how to apply. You can prepare for the online application ahead of time using the application question guide. In a moment, I'll walk you through the online application so you can see why it's helpful to have all this information prepared in advance. While you are able to save your progress and return to an incomplete application later, having everything ready ahead of time can make the process so much smoother and more efficient. The first step is to visit our website. From there, click on the CanGrow grant page, where you'll find an overview of the grant program and information about current grantees. As you scroll, you'll see that the due date for the application is June 1st. Applications are due no later than 4:30 p.m. Next, scroll down until you see the Apply section and select the link that applies to you. You'll also find all CanGrow grant materials on this page, making it easy to access everything you need in one place. If you keep scrolling, you will find additional resources, webinar dates, sample grant contracts, and frequently asked questions. Next, this is just a quick note about data privacy. Per Minnesota statutes, applicants' names, addresses, and requested amounts become public once proposals are opened. All other data becomes public after the evaluation process is complete. For this grant, data is considered public once all grant agreements are fully executed. Any data created or maintained by OCM during evaluation will also become public after evaluation is finalized. All right, back to the application. Before you get too far into the process, make sure you're in the correct online application. There are separate applications for the loan and training grants, so double check that first. The very first page has a data privacy acknowledgement and must be signed by an authorized representative, so someone who is authorized to sign contracts on behalf of your organization. This is another reason to collect all your information ahead of time and make sure that your authorized representative is available to electronically sign this disclosure. So from here, you'll want to choose the application that you're applying for. I chose the CanGrow Farmer Training application. You'll need to review the data privacy information, agree to the terms and conditions, and provide your signature and date. Then click Save or Next to continue. Now, let's discuss saving your work. No account creation is required to complete the application. You can save your progress at any time and return using a link sent to your email. That said, we strongly recommend preparing all materials in advance and submitting your application in one session if possible. Please note that each time you return to your application, you will need to re-sign the data privacy acknowledgement before continuing. So, let me show you how to save your progress. To save your progress, click the Save button and enter your email address. You'll receive a link that allows you to return to your application right where you left off. Please make sure to click Save and Send. Now, I will discuss the information we need from you. In your application, you'll need to identify both your grant point of contact, so the person we'll communicate with throughout this process, and your authorized representative, who is the individual able to sign contracts on behalf of your organization. As best practice, when possible, we recommend that your main point of contact be different from your authorized representative. That separation isn't required, but it does reflect strong internal controls and oversight within your organization. You'll also complete eligibility questions and required attestations. If you cannot say yes to each attestation, you are probably not eligible for the grant. But if you have any questions, you can also reach out. One thing to note is that if you have a spouse or relative working at OCM, you will need to disclose that information. It will not exclude your application for consideration, but rather it's simply about transparency. Okay, we're back to your application on page 2. From here, you want to add your organization name, your physical address, city, state, zip, your website, and select from the drop-down your organization type and click either Save or Next. On the next page, you will enter your grant point of contact information and select if they are the authorized user to sign the grant in behalf of your organization. Then click either Save or Next. From here, you will enter your federal tax ID number, your Minnesota tax ID number, your SWIFT profile ID if you have one. If not, you will create one if awarded down the road. And then complete your attestations, click Save, or click Next. Next, I will discuss the project summary section. The project summary section provides a high-level overview of your proposal. Here, you will enter a project title and a brief description of your planned activities. Keep in mind that this information may be shared publicly if your project is awarded, so it should be clear, professional, and appropriate for public viewing. You will also list the amount of funding you are requesting, along with any matching funds if applicable. In addition, you'll provide your proposed project start and end dates, as well as the geographic area your project will serve. Overall, think of this section as a snapshot of your project, concise, informative, and well-written for a general audience. Now, let's walk through the project summary section of the application. The project summary gives a high-level overview of your proposal. You will enter a project title and a short description of your planned activities. This description should be clear, professional, and appropriate for a general audience. Your project description is limited to 250 characters, including spaces. In this brief summary, be sure to highlight your proposed activities, key objectives, how grant funds will be used, and the benefit to your target population. Next, you will also include the amount of funding you are requesting, along with any matching funds, if applicable. In addition, you'll enter your organization's Minnesota House and Senate district numbers. You will then provide your proposed project start and end dates, as well as the geographic area your project will serve. Overall, think of this section as a concise and informative snapshot of your project. Moving on, let's discuss the project narrative, as this is the largest section. The project narrative and work plan will be submitted as a single uploaded document that you create. There's no template provided, so you'll need to complete all required responses in one document and upload it as a PDF or Word file. Because there is no template, this is your opportunity to tell a clear, cohesive story about your project. Make sure your document is concise and easy to read, and that it clearly explains your organizational capacity and experience, your project goals and objectives, your outreach plan, and your activities and expected outcomes. Just as importantly, make sure you're responding to all of the listed prompts. A good rule of thumb is to follow the questions in order as they're provided. Here are a few tips for your project narrative. First, longer and more complex does not necessarily mean better. In fact, some of the prompts may be longer than your answers, and that's okay. Clear and focused is what matters most. Your proposal will be reviewed by subject matter experts and community reviewers, and they'll be using a rubric that's based directly on the prompts. So the more clearly you respond to those prompts, the stronger your application will be. Also, it's completely okay if your project is relatively simple. A straightforward, well thought out plan is often more effective than something overly complicated. And finally, do not include external links. Reviewers will only evaluate what's included directly in your application materials. Now I will discuss organizational capacity in your project narrative. You will need to describe your organization's mission, vision, and values, and current services being provided, and explain how they align with the goals of CanGrow. Next, describe your organization's history and capacity to manage the proposed project based on grant management experience, staff qualifications, organizational experience, and project execution capacity. Include information about how your uploaded samples of work and relevant experiences are relevant. Next, explain how your organization's industry knowledge in cannabis regulation, tax law, accounting, and small business management aligns with the grant's objectives. Next, provide a history of the organization's experience in relevant services such as small business technical assistance, legal consultation, accounting, resource development, and educational instruction. Next, detail the organization's experience engaging farmers, particularly those facing barriers to education and employment. Lastly, explain how lived experiences of the organization's staff align with those farmers, SEA eligible communities, and/or individuals facing barriers to education and employment. Next, I will discuss the project description section of your narrative. You will need to provide an overview of your project, including how the project promotes navigating the regulatory structure of the legal cannabis industry. This should align with the objectives, activities, and outcomes detailed in the work plan. Describe how the project helps farmers navigate the regulatory structure of the cannabis industry and key activities for compliance. Explain how you will assess the program participants' readiness and program along the continuum of readiness. Next, explain how the project addresses historic and ongoing equity issues in the cannabis industry. Next, describe the key roles of core team members and their qualifications. If any roles are unfilled, describe plans to fill and oversee each aspect of the project. Next, describe how educational programming will be structured to meet farmers' needs. Describe how outreach and marketing to engage farmers will be handled. And is there a physical space available for farmers to gather and host educational activities? If yes, is it suitable for the project? If no, how will the space be provided? Next, I will discuss the project work plan. The work plan describes the day-to-day activities of a project and will be used as a roadmap throughout the life of the grant and as the basis for quarterly project reporting. Please note you will need to provide a narrative description of your work plan. You will need to answer questions like who will be the point of contact for program participants, or who will be providing and/or developing direct services, who will provide coordination for meetings, marketing, outreach, and engagement. Also, who will collect data, track progress, and report on project data and outcomes. Next, I will discuss the outreach and engagement plan section in your project narrative. You will need to describe how your organization will recruit farmers interested in entering the cannabis industry. Describe what actions will be taken to engage farmers living in SEA-eligible communities and/or those facing barriers to education and employment. Describe how program staff will possess the expertise and cultural competency required to effectively engage farmers. Describe what steps will be taken to provide language, translation services, intercultural trainings, and/or assessment tools. And describe what collaboration with community partners will be utilized to ensure cultural competency. Examples are letters of support stating specific commitments to the project. Now I will discuss the evaluation and reporting section in your project narrative. You will need to describe what data your organization will collect and report to OCM each quarter on the outputs and outcomes of the grant program. At a minimum, data required to be reported by grantees includes the number of individuals served, the number of individual service hours provided, types or numbers of services provided. This could include materials, consultations, workshops, or conferences, the number of businesses assisted, demographic and geographic information, the number of licenses obtained by program participants, the number of program participants voluntarily electing to not participate in the legal cannabis industry due to increased knowledge, impact on farmers' ability to expand into the legal cannabis industry. Next, you want to describe plans to collect data on the quantity and quality of services provided, as well as the measurable outcomes of those services. You will need to answer questions like, how will you determine if your project has enhanced cannabis industry compliance? How will you assess if a client has advanced on the continuum of readiness? And what specific criteria or milestones will be used to measure? If applicable, explain how your project will coordinate the implementation of the performance and evaluation plan across partners to ensure the quality and timeliness of reporting. So now, let me walk you through everything I just discussed in your project narrative. As you scroll down from the project summary section on your application, you'll see each component broken out, including the organizational capacity, project description, project work plan, diverse outreach, community engagement and partnerships, and performance evaluation and reporting. Once you've completed your full narrative, you'll upload it as a Word or PDF document directly within the application. Now, let's discuss your budget. You will upload a completed budget using the provided template in the application. Let me show you what that looks like. On your application, if you scroll down from the project narrative section, you'll find a link that will take you directly to the budget spreadsheet. On the first sheet, you'll see the instructions. Be sure to read through these carefully, as they also outline the allowable expenses for this grant. The next sheet is the budget template. This is where you will enter all of your project costs, including salaries, equipment, training, materials, and supplies, contractual expenses, and administrative costs. Please note that administrative costs cannot exceed 10% of your total project budget. Following that, you'll find the matching fund sheet, which should be completed if matching funds are required for your project. Next is the budget summary sheet. This sheet will automatically calculate and compile the totals from your budget template and the matching fund sheets. Lastly, there is an example budget sheet, which is provided to help guide you as you complete your own budget template. Once you are finished, convert the completed spreadsheet to a PDF and upload it to the budget section of your application. This slide goes over eligible expenses for reimbursement. These are examples of costs that can be covered under your grant, as long as they are directly tied to your approved budget. Eligible expenses include equipment needed for your project, as well as training-related costs such as workshops or educational programming. You can also include materials and curriculum, along with consumable supplies used during implementation. For community engagement, expenses such as food, beverages, and even childcare for meetings or trainings are allowable as long as they support participation and accessibility. Rental spaces for trainings or workshops is also eligible, along with promotional materials to support outreach and awareness. Consultant expenses are allowable as well, particularly if you are bringing in expertise to support your project. Now, I want to discuss ineligible expenses. These are costs that cannot be reimbursed under this grant, so it's really important to be aware of these up front. First, everyday operating expenses are not allowable. This includes general business costs that aren't directly tied to your project. Also, infrastructure improvements like renovations or major upgrades are not eligible. Staff performance incentives or bonuses are also not allowed, and grant funds cannot be used for any lobbying activities. Also, purchasing land or buildings is not allowed. Pre award costs, meaning anything incurred before your contract is fully executed, is also not allowed. Administrative costs are capped at 10% of your total award, so anything exceeding that limit would not be eligible. And finally, revenue generating activities are not allowed, since these funds are intended to support program implementation rather than generate profit. All right, back to your application. Let me discuss organizational charts and your board list. You will want to upload your organizational chart and, if applicable, your board of directors list. This should be submitted as a Word document or PDF. Be sure to include the tenure of your board members as well as the length of employment for key staff who will be involved in grant activities and administration. These materials will be reviewed alongside your responses in the project narrative sections, including organization capacity and relevant experience, your project work plan, and your budget. Next, let's discuss samples of work. Some examples of work samples may include items such as an impact report, curriculum, loan policies or procedure manuals, sample loan documentation, marketing materials, compliance reports, accreditations, a portfolio, or a resume. As an optional upload, you may submit up to 3 relevant work samples or supporting documentations in either Word or PDF format. Please note that external links will not be reviewed or considered. The next slide discusses letters of support. As an optional upload, you may include up to 3 letters of support from community members, partners, or program participants who can speak to your organization's ability to successfully achieve the proposed project goals. These letters will be reviewed alongside your response to the project narrative section on diverse outreach, community engagement, and community partnership. So back to your application, if you scroll down past the budget section, you'll find the area where you can upload your supporting documents. These may include your organizational chart, work samples, including impact reports, loan policies or procedure manuals, sample loan documentation, marketing materials, compliance reports, portfolios, or resumes. If you continue scrolling, you'll also see an options section to upload letters of support. You may submit up to 3 letters from community members, partners, or program participants who can speak to your organization's ability to achieve the proposed project goals. All documents should be uploaded as a PDF or Word doc. This slide discusses Form C, Affidavit of Non-Collusion. This form must be completed and submitted as part of your application. By signing it, you are swearing or affirming under penalty and perjury a few important things. First, you are confirming that you are an authorized individual who can sign on behalf of your organization. This could be the applicant, a partner, or an officer or an employee with that authority. Second, you are certifying that your proposal was developed independently. This means it was created without collusion or coordination with any other applicant in any way that would limit fair and open competition. Third, you are confirming that the specific details of your project, such as reporting metrics, population served, curriculum, or staff salary information, have not been shared outside of your organization prior to the official opening of the proposal. It's important to note that this does not mean you can't talk with partners. You are still allowed to have general discussions with potential project partners and request letters of support, as long as those conversations do not create an unfair advantage or appearance of collusion. Finally, once the form is completed and notarized, you will upload a scanned copy to your application. Be sure to keep the original notarized document on file, as awardees may be required to provide it to OCM or the state of Minnesota upon request. On your application, you can locate Form C by scrolling down from the Letters of Support section to Form C Affidavit of Non-Collusion. Click the Form C link, which will take you directly to the form for completion, signature, and notarization. This slide discusses Form D, Certification of No Disqualifying Convictions. This form is required as part of your application to certify that your organization meets all eligibility requirements outlined in the RFP. By signing this form, your organization is confirming that no current principals have been convicted of a felony financial crime within the last 10 years as required under Minnesota statutes. In addition to this requirement, you are also certifying that none of your organization's principals have been convicted of other disqualifying offenses. These include, but are not limited to, certain controlled substance crimes, human or labor trafficking, fraud and financial crimes, cannabis-related sales offenses after August 1st, 2023, or computer or electronic data theft. This also includes attempts or conspiracies related to these offenses, as well as equivalent federal or out-of-state convictions. It's also important to note that the state may disqualify an organization if there's credible evidence of civil liabilities, fraudulent misrepresentation, ongoing regulatory or organizational misconduct, or reputational concerns that could impact public trust or program integrity. As part of this process, principal leaders will also be required to consent to a background and public records review conducted by a third-party vendor. This review helps ensure organizational integrity and compliance with program requirements. It's important to note that by signing, you are affirming that all information provided is true and accurate. Any false or misleading information may result in disqualification from the grant. Now, on your application, if you scroll down from Form C, you will see Form D. Click on the Form D link, which will take you directly to the form. From there, you will need to review the information, sign and date the form, save a copy, and upload it to your application. Next, let's review Form E, Required Nonprofit Grantee Documents as applicable. The form collects basic financial and compliance information from nonprofit applicants. You will first indicate whether your organization was required to file an IRS Form 990 or 990EZ for your most recent fiscal year. If you are exempt or have been operating for less than 1 year, you will briefly describe your internal financial controls, such as policies, separation of duties, payroll systems, and approval processes that help ensure proper oversight of your funds. You will also indicate whether your organization is required to have an audited financial statement based on your annual revenue. Next, Form F, for profit required documents, lien disclosure, and certification. This form applies to for-profit applicants and collects key financial and compliance information. You will first confirm whether your organization has filed its most recent state and federal tax returns. If your business has been operating for less than 1 year, you will briefly describe your internal financial controls, such as policies, separation of duties, payroll systems, and approval processes that ensure proper management of funds. Next, you will disclose whether your business has any liens on assets. You will indicate either no liens or provide details if liens exist. You will also certify that your business is not currently under bankruptcy proceedings. Finally, by signing this form, you are confirming that all information provided is true and accurate. Supporting documents such as recent tax returns and financial statements may be required as part of the pre-award review process. Now, back to your application. For Forms E and F, you will click the links provided for each form. Once you open the form, read the instructions carefully and complete all required fields. After finishing, save the completed form as either a PDF or Word document and upload the document to the application. Next, this slide discusses Form G, Capacity Responses. This form is used to demonstrate your organization's ability to successfully carry out the proposed project as required under Minnesota statute. You will first be asked to describe your organizational history of performing similar work. This should include your current and past staffing, current and past budget, and an overview of your internal capacity to achieve the measurable outcomes outlined in this grant. Next, you will indicate whether your organization has been awarded a State of Minnesota grant within the past 5 years by selecting yes or no. If you select yes, you will need to provide details about the grant, including the grant award amount, the scope of work or duties performed, and the outcomes achieved. Finally, the form must be signed, including your printed name, title, and date, certifying that all information provided is accurate and complete. This slide discusses Form H. Certification entity is not suspended. Form H is a certification confirming that your organization has not been suspended or debarred from doing business with either the state of Minnesota or the federal government. According to OCM Policy 0804, state agencies are prohibited from awarding grants to any organizations that have been suspended or debarred. To complete this form, you'll need to review the statement carefully and sign where indicated. By signing, you are affirming that your organization is eligible to do business with both the state and federal government. Now, let me show you the final steps of your application. Click on Form G and carefully read through the instructions and complete all required questions. Once finished, save your completed form and upload it to your application. Do the same process for Form H, review it, complete, save, and upload. After that, scroll back to the top of your application and review everything from start to finish. Make sure you haven't missed any sections and that all required documents are uploaded. Take your time with this final review step. Next, I will discuss the estimated application timeline. The process begins on April 9th when the application opens. Applicants will have time to submit questions, with public questions closing on May 26th. The application itself closes on June 1st. From there, applications will go through a review and selection period from June through August. Contracting is expected to take place in September. Once contracts are finalized, activities are expected to begin in October. Looking ahead, training activities are anticipated to start in September 2027, and loan-related activities will continue through September 2031. Next, I will discuss the estimated review timeline. Following the application deadline on June 1st, the process moves into review and selection, which takes place from June through August. During this time, the organizational risk assessment and financial review is conducted to ensure selected applicants are prepared to manage grant funds. Next is the issuance of award letters, which is expected in September. At that point, eligible grantees will be formally notified of their award and funding details. Also in September, the finalization of work plans, budgets, and grant agreements take place. Grantees will work with our team to complete all required documentation and confirm project details. These steps lead into project startup, with activities expected to begin in October. Lastly, I would like to discuss the pre-award risk assessment. The pre-award risk assessment is a critical process used by grant-making agencies to evaluate the potential risks associated with awarding funds to grantees. It helps determine whether an organization is financially and operationally capable of managing grant funds responsibly. To support this assessment, applicants are required to submit key financial documents. For nonprofit organizations, this includes a Form 990 or 990EZ, the most recent audited financial statement, and the most recent board-reviewed financial statements. For-profit organizations, required materials include federal and state tax returns, financial statements, a certification confirming the organization is not under bankruptcy, and disclosure of any liens on any assets. These provide insight into the organization's financial health and legal standing. Together, these documents help ensure that grant funds are awarded to organizations that are well positioned to successfully manage and implement their proposed projects. Thank you for your time today. This concludes the first training session for the CanGrow Farmer Training and Loan Grants Program. If you have any questions or need additional support with the application process, please don't hesitate to contact us at ocm.grants@state.mn.us.